It served the purpose of feeding cowboys when they're on a cattle drive.
You're right, absolutely. This was kind of the RV before there was an RV. That's, I think, the best way to put it.
This one.
Wow.
Any guesses on this?
Rocking A?
You're a natural. This is a rocking A. If you look at the bottom there, it's almost like the bottom of a rocking chair.
We have stopped here at the Grant-Kohrs ranch. They gave us this little pamphlet here, self-guided tour. And we're on the path up to the ranch complex here. Here's the original ranch house. And then here's the information on the two gentlemen who started the ranch. Chore boy's room. The ranch usually hired a man to help with general chores. He would care for the buggy horses in the barn to your left, chop and stack wood, milk cows, and run errands for the family. The chore boy made his small room home for as long as he worked at the ranch. This is a bunk room. Cowboys are lucky to have a real bed to sleep in at the Kohrs Ranch. When they were on the range herding cattle, they slept on the ground. Dining room. Yes, sir. Boy, what a meal. Look at that. Look at those steaks. Woo! Beans and pie. Holy mackerel, these guys ate good.
Mashed potatoes and gravy, biscuits.
Oh, wow. I want to go eat. Woohoo! Here's a cowboy shower. Look at that old wood stove. Man. Wow. cherry with a fringe on top. How about that? Coffee?
I do. Don't know how warm it is considering how cold it's been this morning, but got a little bit. Let me grab my hand sanitizer here. I'll pour you a cup.
All right, camp coffee, man. Here we are at the Chuck Wagon. We're going to learn all about cowboy camping and cooking here. And we're going to get some camp coffee. I wonder if it's going to look like oil.
If it was done right, it should. Would you both like a cup?
Just one. We'll share.
He's afraid.
No, I'm not.
I'm kidding.
You are, I'm sure.
I'm probably afraid.
Yeah. Afraid. Be very
There you
afraid.
folks are.
Thank you.
Yeah, so welcome to the Chuck Wagon. Are you familiar with what the Chuck Wagon was?
It's
and
called.
what purpose it served?
Oh, there you go.
It served the purpose of feeding cowboys when they're on a cattle drive.
You're right. Absolutely. This was kind of the RV before there was an RV. That's, I think, the best way to put it. Every need that the cowboy had was going to be met here at the Chuck Wagon.
Cool. So, what all did it carry? How much supplies?
Sure. So it carried about 10 to 12 bedrolls, which would have been in the canvas section. That would have been for each cowboy at night to, of course, roll out and sleep in. And it carried about a month's worth of food, give or take.
Yeah, and that's what, water, fresh water here?
Yes, that was a water barrel. Every time they came to a fresh stream, the cook would take down the water barrel and dump out the old water and refill it with fresh water. Yep. Do you have any ideas what the Cowboys ate?
Not really.
Want to take any guesses?
Probably game that they caught out on the...
Let's see. Potatoes, jerky. They made biscuits.
Possibly potatoes. They can go bad though, so they tend not to use things that can go bad as easily.
So a lot of dry goods then? Flour, rice?
Yeah, rice. When rice came to the prairies, absolutely they used rice. Biscuits, you're not wrong. They used sourdough bread for that. They'd roll them up about the size of golf balls. That's how they would do them in the pan, instead of doing a whole loaf, because that doesn't make any sense on the trail. Beef, if they could get it. Of course, they weren't going to butcher their own cattle at all.
Right.
That's basically just wasting your own money. If they found any strays from other people doing trail drives, or if one wandered a little too far away from one of the open range herds, it was considered a stray, and that was fair game. That.
Oh, all right.
Of course, you know, if yours wandered a little too far away, they were considered stray too. So it just kind of evened out in the end. No one got upset about that. So yeah, if they could get beef, they absolutely would. They would also eat a lot of dried fruit if it was available. And eventually, when canned goods came to be a thing, they would get a bunch of canned goods like canned tomatoes, canned fruit, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. And so typically, I mean, how long was a cattle drive? Average?
Yeah, it really depended on how far they were trailing in their cattle. It could last anywhere from a month or two. That's more of a shorter cattle drive. It lasts upwards of 5 to 6 months. It just, again, depended really where they started and where they were ending.
So in a month or two, how far could they drive a herd of cattle?
They could do about 10 miles a day. So
Okay.
you're looking at maybe 600 miles or so.
Okay. Okay.
Most of the cattle drives that most people have ingrained in their minds are really kind of the ones that started out in Texas and worked their way up towards Kansas, where the railroad was. That would be probably about 700-ish miles. So you're looking probably close to being 3 months out on the range. 2 months if you're making really good time, but then of course you also have to take in accounts of weather, stampedes, crossing rivers, that sort of thing. So it may be 3 months, maybe even be a little bit longer if you want to count the ride back to the home ranch.
Uh-huh.
So usually about 3 or so months they'd be living next to the Chuck Wagon during the cattle drives.
So was this a typical size for a Chuck Wagon? Did they have different sizes for different?
They were different makers, and they all made them a little bit differently.
Okay.
This one's a Studebaker, and if you go up actually towards the big red barn up on top of the hill, there's one that is slightly smaller than this one that you'll see too.
Okay.
So they did vary, but generally they were around this kind of size.
Okay. The origin of the Chuck Wagon.
Any ideas?
Nope.
Any ideas why it's called the Chuck Wagon?
Nope.
No? That's okay. So of course, you know, Chuck is slang for getting grub food. So that's one part of it. But the fellow who actually invented the Chuck Wagon, his name was Charles Goodnight. Chuck Goodnight. He was a famous rancher in Texas. And he took an Army surplus wagon from the Civil War. So this was 1866 when he first made his concept of the Chuck Wagon. And that was going to be kind of the prototype. What he did was he took an Army surplus wagon, he put beams with a tarp over it to...
Complete with grounds on the bottom.
Come again, I'm sorry?
Complete with grounds on the bottom.
Yep. If you're not chewing on your coffee, I'll take that, yeah. If you're not chewing on your coffee, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
So he was able to put a canvas over it, and then he also mounted the chuck box on the back of it. And the reason why this was so popular was because the wagons beforehand that they were using were going to be 2 wheels pulled by oxen. That makes for a slow, bumpy ride. This one would have been pulled by horses, and it was 4 wheels, so it was a little bit smoother. One of the other reasons why they shifted from oxen to horses is because ox are moving just as fast as the cattle is moving during the trail drive. And the cook, of course, when he's breaking down camp during the morning, washing the dishes, then he has to pack everything up, and he has to get ahead of the drive to get to the next campsite where he's going to then set up camp and get dinner ready for when they're coming in off the range. So if you're going at the same speed as the cattle is, you're not getting ahead of the herd, and it's going to make for a longer night.
Right. Wow. Fascinating.
Necessity breeds innovation, pretty much.
Right. The dinner bell. Can we get a ring on the dinner bell?
Sure can. And usually most of the cooks had their own way of announcing when dinner was ready. Usually it was just something simple like, come and get it. Some of them were a little more religiously inclined. They would say, you know, come and give the Lord your blessings or something like that. Some were poetically inclined and would come up with creative things like beans in the pan, coffee in the pot, come and get it while it's hot. So
and so they had a ring for that, or
so they would just take it, come and get it, something like that.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. Looks like we've got a blacksmith working in here today.
You're welcome to come on in. It's a little bright outside. I'd like to point out that rope that's hanging a little bit low there, just so you see it. Don't trip over it like I did this morning.
Uh-oh.
Does anybody need anything that needs fixing?
I don't think so, not right now. My knees seem to be working okay.
Well, that's pretty good. If they're not, I can toss them to the forge here and try to bang them back in the face. Yeah, fixing is pretty much what goes on here. Welcome to the shop. I always like to invite people when they come on in here, instead of just watching me fight the forge all day long. Go ahead and take a look around you in here and go ahead and just tell me what you notice.
A whole bunch of tools hanging on the walls.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of tools in here.
I see the billows over here. Is this what used to operate that?
Yeah, I've got a few different examples of billows in here. See that huge one, and that's kind of back from maybe something you'd see in the 1700s, the early 1800s, a little bit further past that. A little bit later on, towards the 1900s, you had this nice hand-cranked one right here. So,
Oh, look at that.
if you are an apprentice in a blacksmith shop, which one do you think you'd want to have to operate all day long?
Yeah.
That thing, break your back, or
Yeah,
this guy, and
yeah.
just maybe wear out your shoulder after a little while.
Horseshoes.
Plenty
Tools.
of horseshoes in here. Lots of tools and horseshoes. See all sorts of different types of tools that are in here. There's a forge over here, and I got a number of different blacksmithing tools here. I got my hammers, anvil, got this device that looks almost like a medieval torture device, but it's actually great for creating rings and things like that.
Ah,
All sorts of stuff.
wow.
It's got a lot of drills, a lot of woodworking equipment in here.
Right.
We've got a line shaft back here. You see all the belts running there. We've got some grinding wheels. If we need to resharpen some tools, we can do
Oh,
that.
wow.
So all kinds of things going on in here.
Wow. That's great.
Now, if we step ourselves back all the way to the, well, let's say the 1860s, over 150 years ago, when Johnny Grant first comes down here to this part of Deer Lodge Valley and builds that little house up on the hill there in 1862. Well, he's part of the open range cattle era, so he's ranging cattle out here. And blacksmith comes in pretty handy for that process. If you look around the shop, what kind of things stand out to you that you think a cattle rancher might need a blacksmith to make for him?
Oh, his brands.
Brands,
His
yeah.
horseshoes.
Horseshoes?
Probably bits for the horses.
All sorts of stuff. Bits for the horses. Wagon equipment.
Well, yeah, wagon equipment, probably
Wagon
tools
equipment.
like saws or, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some tools. You picked out a lot of really important stuff. One of the first things you said were the the brands. A little different. But yeah, the brands, and you see some examples hanging on that rack over there.
Right.
Pretty good examples of what a skilled blacksmith was needed for back in an open range. Is if you just imagine all those bench lands out there and you take all the fencing, all the buildings and everything out of the picture from your mind, all those grasslands, completely unfenced, around you for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Okay, out here with the blacksmith, he's going to give us a quiz here, and it looks like he's holding a board with some brands on it, maybe?
Yeah, these are brands. You notice there's some letters, some different symbols on here and things like that. And being able to read these properly was very important to a cowboy, because that's how you find out, number one, if that cow belongs to the herd that you're supposed to be taking care of. And also, you know if somebody's tried to change your brand on the cow. Because there are people out there called rustlers. And with cattle just completely left by themselves on that open range, they wander off. Easy prey for those rustlers to come along, grab them, change the brand, and sell them. They get all the money for those cattle.
Yep.
But there's 3 rules to reading brands. You read it from left to right, or if there's something on top of something else, you read it from top to bottom, or if there's something inside of something else, you read it from outside in. So we'll start easy right here.
A.
Yep, you got it already. A is how you read that brand. Now how about this one?
Lazy A.
Lazy A. Have you read some brands before?
No, sir.
Okay. You're just a natural cowboy, I guess.
The
Yeah,
next
you would
one's-
call that lazy, because if I was laying on my side all day long, they call me lazy too. Now, I'm going to jump ahead to this one.
Wow.
Any guesses on this?
Rocking A.
You're a natural. This is a rocking A. If you look at the bottom there, it's almost like the bottom of a rocking chair.
Wow.
So that A is rocking.
But then that one next to it with the,
I
with
was
the thing
about to
on
say,
top.
now let's really
that-
start quizzing your brain here.
That.
The one on top, it's reversed like this.
Right.
Well, if it's rocking, if you flip that upside down,
And swinging.
it's a swinging A.
Uh,
There you go, now you got the swinging A.
Ah.
How about that one right there?
You haven't made any guesses yet, dear.
well, it could be the tilted A, or the...
That is very close. We can call that either a tumbling A or a falling A.
Ah.
Absolutely.
okay.
How about that one right there?
Bar V? I don't know. Or it's an A upside down.
Could be. Actually,
What?
bar V, yeah, if that was what it was supposed to be, that could be read as bar V. But, if I show you upside down,
It's an upside down A.
it's an upside down A, which is just crazy, so we call that a crazy A. Well, you can see right here, sometimes there are little symbols added on to it. So you've got an A right here, and it's got what looks like two little wings.
Or
added
cow
onto the
horns
side.
or something on
Cow
it.
horns.
Yeah.
But they would call that a flying A.
A flying A.
Flying A, since it's got a couple wings added onto the
Oh
side
my
there.
gosh! Wow.
Yeah, certainly. Now, one of the famous ranches coming out of Texas was the XIT Ranch. They specifically chose that XIT brand because they discovered, or at least the thought was, there was no possible way to alter this where they couldn't find the XIT in it. Until some very clever rustlers came along and turned it into this.
Oh my gosh! Look at that.
Well, the law caught up to these rustlers and they sentenced them to hang for stealing cattle. But they said, we'll spare your lives if you tell us how you managed to do that. Well, if you look into it, you can see.
Yeah. There's
You
the
can see the
CDX. Yeah.
Oh,
The eye. Yep.
yep.
But these guys were clever. What they figured out was after heating up that bran repeatedly in the fire over and over again, the side of the T would melt off. So it would melt off to one side. So they would specifically target the cattle with that melted T right there, which gave them enough room to turn it into something that looked like that.
Show me the XIT again on the other
Absolutely.
side. Look at that. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's just amazing.
So they managed to do
Clever, clever guys,
it.
man.
Absolutely. But if that happened, you would need to take that to a blacksmith who would be able to fix it. And that's typically, here in western Montana, that's what blacksmiths were doing out here for the ranchers. They were fixing things. So if you look at those wagon wheels right there with the metal tire on the outside, that got bent out of shape, they would take it to the blacksmith and they would just bring it right back into shape.
And then, what's this fancy little machine right here?
that machine is basically another way of fixing stuff when it gets broken.
That's a wagon wheel to bend the wagon
This is
wheel
a wagon
back.
wheel, and this is from a piece of mowing equipment that they would have had to basically harvest hay to help feed the cattle throughout the winter months. We just got this here to show you how this contraption would have clamped onto the wheel. Sometimes they had this with them out in the field while they were mowing. This is a sickle bar grinder. So this grinder is specifically designed to resharpen the teeth on a sickle bar.
Oh,
That looks like this.
Yes.
Because when this contraption, or when this mower was pulled, the way they're designed, the sickle bar would actually just go back and forth like this, oscillate,
Right.
and like a giant pair of scissors would cut all the grass as it went. But if this got bent or got dull out in the field, if you're trying to cut through clover, which is pretty hard on a sharp surface, you pull this out, stay right here, pull this up to here, and then turn that crank, and it would resharpen it. It'll do it automatically.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
And that stone, as you turn the crank, moves up and down to resharpen the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.